So I'm just going to play for you this week Melody, which you've started, and we're just looking at the first 4 bars at the moment. Both hands are in the treble clef, so make sure your left hand is on middle C, and the music stays in that same part of the piano all the way through this music. But don't necessarily move where you're sitting, still sit in the middle of the piano. So the left hand is the tricky one, really, because these quavers generally don't stop all the way through the music. So you need to make sure that you're following all the notes very carefully, and any fingering that's written in the music, you need to make sure that you are following it and using it. So here's the first tricky one. You have to move the 2 to the E, 3 on D, 4, then move the thumb to the D, and that then shifts the hand. So you've got fingers to play low G, all right? So it's about watching the intervals. Now, intervals in music is the distance between any 2 notes, okay? They can be 2 notes that are played together, such as in the right hand, you've got that one. That's an interval of a third because it's 1, 2, 3 notes apart, okay? But also we have intervals within the music, part of the melody. It's not the melody, but it's the accompaniment, but the notes that follow one after the other. So how far is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I should do it in my left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're reading 5 notes. Then before we've talked about steps and skips. They are intervals as well. So step is a second. That's just next door, 1, 2. So you have a 5, then a step. Then we have a skip, which is a third. But it's easy to spot on the music because, as you know, it's a line to a line or a space to a space. Okay, but sometimes we have bigger intervals like this one, which is the 5. Then it's up a skip, then a step, then a skip. And bar 2, you've got one between D and G, so that's a fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then it's down step, 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 step. So this music is full of these intervals, and it's how you follow those, making sure you follow them carefully. The music, I say, does twist and turn rather, okay? It has big intervals, and it does steps, and it does skips, and it goes back on itself, goes down, then up, then down, then up. It's all over the place, so you really have got to take it slowly to make sure you're following it accurately. Okay, and so on. Sometimes the accompaniment will go between the same note sometimes. So G, particularly, if you see how many G's there are in that first bar, there's 3. There's only 1 in the next bar, but then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 in the next bar. So G features with the thumb quite a lot in this music. So sometimes we're just going back to that same note, but then other times it goes away from that. And then it comes back to it again. So here we're going back to the G, back to the G, then changing the fingering around, and then it moves away from that. Okay, so careful learning and following of that left hand. The right hand itself is not quite so difficult, but when you play the right hand, please make sure you do a crotchet on these first notes and don't make them quavers as well. They should be crotchets, which should be the equivalent of 2 notes that you play in the left hand. So make sure they're equivalent of 2 quavers. Now you have to put the finger over to the 2. Skip, step, skip, step, and G, which is an interval of 4th. So again, I'm using those skips, steps, skip, step, and the interval of the 4th. Then it's an octave. Again, keep these crotchets, they're full length. And again, you have to go over with your 4th finger. And if you take the 2nd finger to the sharp, the 2 and 3, so the fingers are slightly spread apart, the thumb can come underneath to finish on the G. That fits quite nicely. Okay? And then if you wanted to try that together, you need to do it slowly because this is more challenging, this music, especially when you get to this bar. That little bit may take you a few goes to get that. especially around here, because you've got to think what you're doing in the left hand. You're moving the fingers, then you're going over with the right hand. You've got to find this chord, and you're going to move the thumb in the left hand. So lots going on. It's quite complicated music. You're perfectly able to play this music, I've no doubt, but as long as you approach it slowly, all right? I know you like to rush things, but you can't with this piece, I think. It's worth getting it first at a good slow speed so that you've got it accurately.